talking about failure and success, Zeno created Stoicism from a shipwreck.
Yes.
I want to ask you if you think that falling and believing and following Stoicism has to do with a tragedy, has to do with failure, or can it come from success? Can it come from command? Can it come from a good and peaceful life?
Well, there's no question that Stoicism comes out of a disaster. This successful merchant suffers a shipwreck. He washes up penniless in Athens. And from that shipwreck, he founds this school of philosophy that we're talking about 2,500 years later. And he says, I made a great fortune when I suffered a shipwreck. And so I think it's fitting that Stoicism comes out of that, Stoicism being a way to respond to difficulty and adversity. But in the two most, I think, profound and inspirational Stoics, we have Epictetus on the one hand, who is a slave, and we have Marcus Aurelius on the other, who's the emperor of Rome. And I think in these two figures, you get the full spectrum of human society. You have profound powerlessness and persecution and injustice and the opposite of privilege. And then in Marcus Aurelius, you have all the privilege and power of the known world. And yet, they're both studying the same philosophy. They're both aspiring to be in command of themselves. Epictetus, again, trying to do it in the midst of torture and deprivation. Marcus Aurelius trying to be in command of himself in the midst of incredible power and temptation and flatterers and distractions. And so at some level, it is the same journey,
It can be true for both.
It's true for both. And I think we see in both of their stories that full spectrum. And we all sit somewhere between those two figures.
Now, talking about the modern world and the internet and digital media, Seneca wrote about freedom, and he said, "Show me a man who's not a slave."
Yeah,
we're slaves to something, to our desires, to the outer world,
to these things,
to those things.
Yes,
and I mean, me as a journalist, what do you think about the algorithm era, where we're practically slaves to content and to consuming that kind of content? To the cycle of news, to breaking news. We're getting news every single second that news doesn't last, but you're getting that information. So how do you think, from the viewpoint of Stoicism, you can live through this digital era, but not disconnect from the world and the current issues?
Yeah, I mean, the number of very successful, very smart people I know who are just hopelessly addicted to Twitter or to social media or to their email. And so you think you're powerful and important, but actually the algorithm is in control of your life. And that's a scary thing, I think, to the Stoics. I try to obviously create some boundaries in my own life. I'm not perfect at it. This tension between being an informed citizen and then following every breaking news story and being hopelessly addicted to the news, I think it's a tension a lot of people are struggling with. I just think a lot of people have conflated being informed with knowing everything that's happening right in this moment.
And having an opinion about it.
Totally, yes. I mean, that's one of the things the Stoics talk about, that remember, we have the power to have no opinion.
Exactly.
And that's a power you have to cultivate. But I think I would much rather people be reading more books and watching fewer news. No offense to your line of work.
No, absolutely.
It's to me, if you have a base of knowledge, if you understand history, if you understand psychology, if you understand politics, then you can be better able to filter and understand the news of the world as it's happening. But if all you know is what's happening right now, you don't really know anything at all. And that's really the problem, is people are following news stories that, I think we see it very clearly in sports coverage, right? Like, will so-and-so be traded? Will they do this? Will they do that? And it's like, they either will or they won't. Following it as it's happening isn't changing the story. And it's not affecting your life one way or another. It's just trivia that you're consuming. But then we seem to feel the need to watch news coverage speculating, like in the US, how the midterms will go. Well, the midterms are a year and a half from now, right? Like, they'll go the way that they'll go. You watching news coverage guessing about how they might go unless you're a political power broker yourself or a hedge fund trader, this is probably not information that you need day to day.
And it's designed to provoke emotions, to provoke
to make you worried and
interactions.
anxious. Yeah. It's to go, it could go badly, so I need to check on it all the time, right? And what you're neglecting is your actual life, and what you're neglecting is the things in the areas that you have a lot of control over. Like, more people vaguely follow social media in the US more people vaguely follow politics in the US through social media than actually vote in elections, right? And so that is the contradiction that we have to resolve, which is you are focused on what you don't control and neglecting what you do control, and then you're unhappy at the end of it. It's nuts.